Algebra's like sheet music. The important thing isn't can you read music, it's can you hear it. Can you hear the music, Robert?
Yes, I can.
I want to remind you that you have already been given a complete model. In my opinion, the one that you've been given is the easiest. It's the most visually friendly chart application of my concepts. It's simply looking for a specific thing within a specific time window, and there it is. Let me remind you all that the core content was not really mentorship. It was a language that I was sharing with my students in the private group, so that way I could speak to them in a manner where it would be understandable. Now, like anything else, if you're trying to learn an instrument or learn how to read sheet music, it's going to be a little intimidating at first. But understand, simply because you understand how to read sheet music doesn't mean you know how to play the piano. So understanding that the logic and the concepts that I'm sharing through the core content lessons, they are just me providing a language. Now, you're going to have to obviously submit to a lot of learning. If you're going to go through this, understand it's going to take you a lot of time. Do not go into this wanting to make that YouTube model better. All right? So that we understand each other going in. Many of you have already found consistency and profitability just with what I've taught already. What's going to happen is you're going to look at the things I'm teaching in the core content lessons that were really delivered as early as August 2016 to the private group. But these concepts have been with me since 1996. So they've been around for a long time. Only my one-on-one students were trained with these things. And in 2016, I came out and said I was going to start teaching it. And I opened up a private group, and there it was. None of those videos were given a visual watermark, because my intentions were for those individuals that had no character, they were going to work for me for free. That means they were going to spread it around, share it with their friends and neighbors, put them up in Discord channels, all those types of things. Knowing full well that these lessons are just the language, not the here's what you're supposed to do with it. That part had to come from me. The ongoing teachings, the lessons, sitting down with me, being mentored. And it's much like the parable of the Jade Master. And there's this young guy. He's thinking to himself, I'm doing these menial jobs. I can't really do well. I heard about this old guy on the other side of the mountain, and he's a Jade Master. I'm going to be a Jade Master. That's going to be my profession. And I will be able to live well because that's a profession that'll pay me. So he goes on a long journey, finds his way to the Jade Master's home and knocks on the door. Small man opens the door up and says, "Hey, I want to be a Jade Master." And the old man smiles and says, "Please come in." So they sit down, they start talking to one another. And the young man says, "I want to be a Jade Master." So the old man gets up, walks across the room, opens up a little box on a shelf, reaches in, takes something out, and tells the young man to hold his hand open. He says, "Which hand?" He goes, "Are you right-handed or left-handed?" The young man says, "I'm right-handed." He says, "Open up your right hand." The young man opens up his right hand outstretched, and the old man presses a green stone into his palm and tells him to close his hand around the stone and hold it. Don't put it down. And he sits down and starts talking to him about things that have nothing to do with Jade. Talks to him about things that he did when he was younger, stories that led to wisdom. Talks about things that the old man had to do around his own house and suggested that he would have to do some of those things if he wanted to be trained. So he told him, "Look, here's the broom. I want you to start sweeping up." The young man looked at him strangely, but took the broom from him nonetheless and started sweeping. And about 20-30 minutes goes by, and he says, "Listen, I came here to learn how to be a Jade Master. I didn't come here to sweep your house. I'm not your servant." And the old man says, "Please, give me the broom. Give me the stone. It's time for you to go home. Come back next week. So the young man, a little disoriented and confused, shrugs his shoulders and walks out the door. A week goes by, comes back, knocks on the door again. The old man greets him and says, come on in. He goes to the same box, picks up that same green stone, tells him to open up his hand, presses the green stone in his palm, and starts telling him about tree frogs. And right away, the young man says, listen, maybe we're not understanding each other. I didn't come here to learn about frogs. I didn't come here to sweep your house or listen to your stories that have nothing to do with becoming a jade master. The old man stands up and says, it's time for you to go. Please, may I have the stone back? Come back next week. The young man looked at him strangely. Are you serious? He goes, yes, please. It's time for you to go home. Come back next week. So the young man leaves. The following week comes back. Old man invites him in, goes to the same box, takes the green stone out of the box, presses it into his palm, then begins to tell him all the stories about what he had to endure as a young child. And again, almost an hour goes by, and the young man just can't stand it anymore. He says, listen, I need this to work for me. I'm putting everything I have into this. Can you please just teach me about jade? Stop telling me these boring stories. Stop talking to me about things that have nothing to do with becoming a jade master. I want to know how to do this. And I feel like you're abusing my interest. I want to learn how to master jade. I didn't come here to do these things that you're asking me to do. Why are you wasting my time? The young man goes over to the same box, reaches in, takes out something, and the old man tosses him a stone, and the young man catches it in midair. He says, here, hold this piece of jade. The young man feels it in his hand, says, this isn't jade. And the old man smiles. That story, and many like it, there's different versions of it. When I first read that, it didn't resonate with me. Why? Because I was a 20-year-old. My first introduction to it was in the Market Wizards book by Jack Swagger. And it's an abbreviated version of it in there. But when I read it, I'm thinking to myself, why'd they even put this in this book? It made no sense to me, because as a young man, I thought like a young man. I wanted this book to talk about the secrets of trading, the very things that was most guarded by the most coveted of all traders. And to be honest with you, there's nearly nothing in those books that he wrote that were transcending. Nothing special in terms of technicals, no entry patterns, no little funny approach to doing anything in the marketplace. It was them sitting down, sharing their experiences, much like the Jade Master was with the young man that was seeking to be a Jade Master himself. Now, over time, I read that book multiple times. After losing and blowing accounts as a young man, it became clear to me the young man had an issue, much like I did, and much like many of you probably do too. And some of you probably already turned this off. But you'll come back to this one. Those of you that have turned it off, and you'll listen to this and it'll make sense to you as well later on. When someone has a skill, you can't come to them with your preconceived notions about how you should be taught. To assume for a moment that you know how you are to be trained and taught implies that you are the educator, you're the master, you're the sensei, you're the guru. So therefore, why are you even looking for someone to teach you? Because you obviously know more than the student would know that seeks the educator. I've had a lot of individuals like this, both female and male, come to me with their ideas about how they should be trained, how they should be taught, when they have neither the patience or the understanding that what I'm teaching takes time, was a small range day. That's set up a large range day. Large range days come after small range days. How do you know when a large range day is coming specifically? Well, you have to understand the market dynamics that you're presently under. I'm not here to beat my chest. I'm not here to say, listen, I'm smarter than everybody else. I'm not smart, folks. I'm just a very, very, very blessed man. My interest is for you to do well. The language I had to create, that's what I'm sharing with the core content lessons. Now, none of my private group students found profitability with just those videos alone. Now, let me say that again, because I just reminded them of this in the forum. Not one of my private group students ever just watched those videos and walked out into the marketplace and found profitability. You're going to have to take this information and work with it for a while. Study it. And some of the things that you're going to come across in the teachings are going to feel like they don't resonate with you at all. That's fine. But when you go through the entirety of all 12 months of the core content, that means every single lesson, you're going to come across something that really resonates with you. You may not fully understand it. You may feel like, I like this. I think this makes sense a little bit, but I just don't know enough about it. That's fine. Make a note in your journal. Come back to that particular study. And when you're watching these videos, listen, it's a forced out of the nest. This is what you have, what makes sense to you, and you work with that. And then you may want to add more to it with other things that's been taught, but you strip it down to one particular simple model. In my mentorship that was paid, that is a freak show for everything that's available that I can divulge. And taking those things together, not one model uses everything that I teach. So the common misnomer is, I'm going to take ICT's entire core content mentorship lessons and I'm going to make the Frankenstein of all models. Everything's going to be in the model. And that's not how you do this. In fact, I've watched every single year that I had mentorship groups coming in, there'd be a large group of the young guys and gals come in here, try that very thing. The kitchen sink approach. They try to make everything I've ever taught apply to the marketplace right now. And that's not how I taught it. You just need a concept that allows you to go in at the right time with the right motive, engage, take your pound of flesh from the marketplace, and leave quietly and look for another opportunity, not right away, but when it makes most sense. And experience is the greatest teacher. You'll learn how to do more. You'll know when to apply more leverage through experience. But you start by going into this prepared to be bored. Because if it's boring to you, that means you're not going to be drug around by your emotions or psychology while you're in the markets looking at price. You're not going to be enticed. Come on. You just learned that thing. You just learned about the BISI and the SIBI. You just learned about consequent encroachment. Come on, let's go out there and push a button. Resist that. Resist that, folks. You want this to be easy. Cookie cutter approach. Same thing all the time. Turn it on, doop, money falls in your bank account. It doesn't work like that. You're going to have to work your ass off. And the things you're going to learn, they may cause confusion. Don't let it disrupt your learning. Each video, you journal it. When you get to a part of the video that is a cause for concern, questions that are going to come up. What does he mean by this? Why did he mention this? And why did he mention that? You need to have a notebook for every individual month, because you're going to have a lot of questions that are come up. And then when you go through new lessons, those questions, I promise you, it won't feel like this, but when you go through all the videos a second time, you're going to find that those answers were always there. You're going to listen to videos and swear that that video was edited and something was added to it after the fact. And I had that happen all the time from every user group that came into my mentorship. They always said the same thing. How the hell did I miss that? It's been there. They downloaded the video. It's been in their computer. I couldn't go in there and change it. But they'll swear up and down that they didn't hear that the first time they listened to it because they're doing too many videos at one time. So you have to be, number one, you have to be patient. It's intended for you to take a full year doing it. You're welcome to say I trained you. You're welcome to say that you learned it from me, and that's fine. I don't have any problem with that. That's what respect is. Can you run your own service and give out signals and your own analysis and have no beef with me? Absolutely. I encourage every one of my students to do that. All of them. I tell them all the time, you're welcome to say that you were trained by me, but you better fucking have the results because I'm showing what these results should look like. If you're not precise, you didn't learn from me. If you're not consistent, you didn't learn from me. If you're trading without stop loss, you didn't learn from me. If you don't know why you're getting in a trade and where it's going, you did not learn from me. They're characteristics of an ICT student, an apt pupil of Smart Money Concepts, otherwise known as me. Just me. Every question you have, write it down in your journal for that individual video. If you do that, when you come to a new video, something's going to be in that video. Oh yeah, let me go back and look at that group of questions I had from the previous month's content. And were there any questions that were answered there? And then you were going to write down the answers to that question you had. And because you wrote it in a question format, and because you wrote the answer that you discovered in another video later on, that later on discovery that answers that question will now be rooted in an event that is more meaningful to you. So it will be less likely for you to what? Forget it. That's note-taking done properly. And that's the byproduct of going through the process of going through the mentorship videos one by one, not skipping around, not picking what video sounds titled better than the other one. If you're not going to engage with every single video from beginning to end in the order that I'm going to put them out, don't do this, folks, because the results will be affected by that. That's my hope, that everybody in the community gets to the point where, you know what, I appreciate everything, but we don't need to come back into the forum anymore because all I'm doing is reading other people and their confusion, and I don't need that. I know what I'm doing and where I'm going and how I'm going to trade. It's been amazing. Thank you. See you later. That's it. That's graduation. That's what it's intended to do. You want to be plugged into me all the time, relying on me to talk about where the market's going to go? You shouldn't want that. And I don't want you to have that as my students. I don't want you relying on me, needing some kind of service from me, some kind of gimmick, some kind of a system, some resource. You don't need shit from me. Once you learned how to trade, all right, see you later, thanks ICT, I'm gone. That's how it's supposed to be, because I'm not going to be with you forever. I'm not going to be here forever. So learn how to do this independently. That's how a real independent thinking trader grooms themselves. They prepare for that day where their educator, their mentor, their teacher lets go of the bike seat. So make ready for that day. That should be an exciting time for you. I'm excited for all of you to have that moment. That's independence. That's power. And it'll really allow you to look back of all the times that you had to endure and all the times you question whether or not you're going to ever be able to do this. Am I ever going to make money doing this? Am I ever going to be able to do this and make money? And you discover the things that you were doing was making it harder on yourself. It wasn't me or the concepts. It was you. You're trying to do more than is necessary. And how do you know? Look at what I've taught on the mentorship 2022. Is that a lot of stuff? No. So obviously you learn a skill set if you go through the 2022 mentorship on YouTube. You will not learn a model by going through the core content mentorship videos. You won't learn that. And if we were all in an auditorium, if we could put everybody in one place, and I had the room divided into, here's the paid group members, and here's everybody outside of that. And if I was to say, okay, everybody in the paid group, raise your hand if I went into a model and outlined it as simple as I did on the YouTube channel. In any of the paid group lessons and lectures, did I make it that simple, that short, and cut to the point, just simply as easy as it is on YouTube channel? They would all say no. They would say no. And the question you're probably asking as someone outside of that community is why the fuck would anybody want to go in there? Well, when I marketed it, I said it is for freaks, for people that just simply want to know everything I'm willing to teach. Again, as a reminder in closing, if you've already found your model with the YouTube channel, 2022 mentorship, do not go into these videos because it's going to cause you to derail. You've already got a model that works. Use that. Don't do anything else. I don't need you to watch my videos. I don't need you to go in there and derail yourself and mess up the progress that you've made for yourself. If you found it working right now, don't tinker with it. Just stick to that. And I mean that sincerely. I've literally given you a model that works. It's easy to trade, period. It's already on the YouTube channel. So stop expecting something easier than that, because there isn't anything easier than that. Period. If you're not getting yourself prepared, you're going to be homeless. You're going to be unable to feed your family or yourself. And the normal everyday job, that's going to be almost impossible. I know it sounds like science fiction, but listen, folks, there's a reason why I came out on Baby Pips in 2010. You're now discovering it now. Look around. That's what I was growing encouraged to come out and try to help as many as I could. Think about it. How else do I know these things before they happen? Think. You know the answer. Some of you just don't want to admit it. Until next time, be safe.
Wow, what you just learned here could change the whole approach to trading. Are you ready to take the next step? Your next big insight is just one click away.